I'd like to welcome Yona today to our third or fourth episode even in the series of GSAL Be Inspired to Excel. Yona left GSAL in 2011. He participated in the Commonwealth Games in 2014 and represented Jamaica in the 2000 Olympics at diving in the 3-meter springboard. It's my pleasure to welcome Yona. Hello, Yona, how are you doing?
Thanks very much, Mr. Morris. Very well, thank you. Very well.
It's good to see you. As I say, you can call me Paul now. I know it's habit of years of saying that. It's difficult, isn't it? But no, please do. Just your first question, Yona, from me, and Martin Knowles will be asking a few more challenging questions, I'm sure, in a bit. But my first question, Yona, is that going back to time at school, what did you enjoy most about school sport?
I think just the raw competitiveness of us, young kids just wanting to be the best at whatever it was, whether it was football, rugby, cross country. I hated cross country. I got to say that. Did not enjoy having to do that before every football and rugby session. But just competing against my friends and trying to get one up and have a bit of like bragging rights, that'll last for a few days if you scored a goal in football or something like that. And we took that, what we learned in PE and games lessons, we took that to just the playground at lunch times, and I literally spend my whole lunch playing football with my friends. And it was just such good times, such good memories, and it was a lot of fun. It also gave me experience of traveling away and almost playing professionally. I know we were nowhere near professionals, but the idea of having to turn up at a particular time to get on the coach to go away to whatever school we were going to play, and once we arrived there, we're representing the school, and it's a thing that you got to approach with a lot of pride and honour, because it is a big thing to represent GSAL, especially at that time. There were a lot of people in our year and not everyone could make it onto the team. And once you did make it onto the team, you had to show why you were on that team. So it taught me a lot about what it meant to represent someone, which I've then taken on into my diving career. When I go to represent Jamaica internationally, I've just got the flag, but I'm representing an entire nation, and it's something that I'm very proud of, and something that I approach with as much professionalism as possible, regardless of the level of competition that I'm doing.
Yeah, we're very proud of you as well, Yona, and to see on television was absolutely amazing. So well done with all that. And just going back to diving, when did you first get into diving? And most of all, when did you first realise that you could make a career out of this?
So I got into diving in 2004. I don't know if you might remember, but City Elite's Diving Club sent a few coaches. They were going around to a load of different schools around the city, and they came to Leeds Grammar School at the time. I was in year 4, so in junior school, and they took us into the sports hall, and we did a load of like gymnastics-based tests, and they were just looking for elements of kids that could potentially be turned into good divers, and I turned out to be really good at all the things that they tested us on, because I had a bit of a gymnastics background. So because I was good there, I got invited to the pool, had a pool session, and I loved it from day one. Found it fun. It was a thrill that I'd never experienced before, and just throwing myself off the diving boards was just so much fun to me. So I kind of got involved in it then, stuck at it for a little while, because I made a few friends. It was a really cool thing to do, and I was just generally very sporty as well, so it was perfect for me. And I don't know when the particular point when I realized I was good at it. I had a lot of success at like novice level, but novice level is very different to any other level of diving. But I just slowly got a little bit better and a little bit better, and over the years I just never stopped doing it. And I think that's the main thing. I just never stopped, just because I was just going with the flow. I enjoyed it. As I say, I made a lot of friends, traveled to a few places. I think in my second year in diving in 2006, I went to Eindhoven and to Lund in Sweden. And, you know, being able to go to a couple of international competitions after 2 years in diving, that kind of set the precedent, and I just wanted more of it. And I think I probably realised how good I was when my coaches suggested the idea of potentially representing Jamaica. I was struggling to make it into the British team. You know, there were a lot of good divers at my age group level, and my coaches showed a lot of belief in me that I could potentially make it to a really high level. So they suggested representing a country of my heritage, so either Barbados, which is my mum's side, Jamaica, which is my dad's side. I chose Jamaica, and we decided that, you know, the 2016 Olympics was in sight, and we were going to put in as much work as possible to make it there. And, you know, it worked out and I made it.
Yeah, great. And 2016, what an experience. And probably this next question I'm going to ask you, you're probably going to give the answer that I expect, but I'm going to ask it anyway, Yona. What's been the highlight of your journey so far?
There's been so many, and it's funny. I host a podcast, something I started in 2018. And when I get guests on my podcast, I ask them about their worst and best moments. So they tell me the story of their worst moment in their sport, and they tell me the story of their best moment in their sport. And every time I ask the question, I always think, what story would I tell for my best moment in sport? And I can never pick the same one every time, because there's always a different moment that sticks out to me, for completely different reasons. And I mean, I could tell you a number. I mean, probably the best one was when I qualified for the Olympics at the World Cup, which was in Rio in February of 2016. And I needed to get into the top 18 to qualify my spot. I ended up finishing 17th. I only made it in by 6 points, but that moment was not just 4 years of hard work, but my entire career of hard work. That's what it came down to. I was very emotional. I had a lot of my friends around me that I trained with, and you know, people that had seen my journey that I could celebrate with. That was probably the sweetest moment for me. But then it was funny, I was talking to my coach about this, and in the same event, I then went on into the final, and I ended up winning a world silver medal, which was unbelievable. I mean, I was never expected to win a world silver medal. So if you ask my coach what his best moment of me was, it would be that world silver medal, because it was just an unreal moment. I had almost a perfect list. You know, something that comes along once in a blue moon. And that was a very, very special moment. But for me personally, it wasn't quite as special as the qualifying moment. And then obviously in the same year, actually competing at the Olympics, that was just unreal. I can't even describe, absolutely unreal.
Immense, absolutely immense, mate. Brilliant. And you know, a lot of changes now with lockdown. How have you adapted your training with all the restrictions?
So in diving anyway, we spend a large majority of the time in the gym. So we probably split it 50-50 between gym and pool. So I've been able to do the majority of the gym work. I'm based up in Edinburgh now. Before the pool shut up here, I was able to take a few bits of equipment away. So I took like a small crash mat, a couple of mats, some weights, and some like TheraBands and things like that. I've also got a Swiss ball that's just sitting in my flat. You know, I haven't got much space in here, but I've got just about enough space to do a load of conditioning, do a load of flexibility work, and also a lot of visualization work as well. Just imagining what it feels like to be on the boards and to do my dives. I've been watching a lot of diving videos. I've actually been watching some of the competitions from Rio, which has been quite nice and cool to look back on. But you know, it's been strange, but it's almost potentially a blessing in disguise, because it's allowed me to work on a few areas that I wouldn't normally have time to work on, particularly with flexibility. That's something that's very important for me, and an area that I've struggled in during my diving career. So I've been able to work on that a little bit more, and just general conditioning. We've been doing a load of Zoom sessions with various coaches, whether that's strength and conditioning coach, gymnastics coach, or my actual coach, trying to keep as much of the team dynamic as possible. and just staying sane, really, just staying sane, trying to enjoy every single day as much as I possibly can, because it's been tough. There's really not much to do, but I've been finding ways to stay productive and stay like mentally active as well as physically active.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean, it has been difficult, and we hope you're doing well and keeping it all going. Just a final question from me, Yona. What tips would you give to the students currently at GSAL about training, whether they're just starting off or whether they are actually, well into their training? What advice would you give to them?
Particularly in this time, I'd say owning your training and creating yourself a schedule and not relying on your coaches or other people to set your schedule. So something that I've really realized during this period of time is that I take it for granted the structure that I have every single day, but that structure is set for me by the facility I train at and my coach based on my training times. So I have those training times set, and then I make my other plans around that. Whereas during this period of time, the first week was a bit ropey because I didn't really think about it, and I was just doing random things at random times. And then when I decided to start planning my week a little bit more in depth, that's when I started to feel a lot better and feel a lot more productive. So I'd say definitely like structure your days and structure your weeks, plan your training sessions, take control and take ownership of what you can control, and try and do that to the best of your ability. That's the best place to start. And then, from there, you don't have to worry about other things as much. You can just focus on execution. And at the end of the day, obviously, execution is the most important part. That'll separate the best from the rest. If you can execute what you can do as well as possible, then that's all you can do. If someone beats you or someone executes better than you, then as long as you've done the most that you can do personally, then you can't really have any complaints. So I think that's my main tip. Just start with structure, get the foundations right, and then build from there.
So basically, you've got your plan. That's the most important thing. Have a structure, and then, as you said, just making sure that you stick to that plan, do the best that you can do, and then it's up to other people to beat you, but you can only do the best you can do.
Exactly, and in my sport, I can't influence what other people do. On competition day, I can't influence what other people do, because when I get onto the board, I'm on the board on my own, and that's it. And when one of my rivals or competitors is on the board, they're on the board, and it's up to them to do the best they can do. It's very different for other sports. For example, if you look at tennis or football or rugby, you can have a direct influence on how someone else performs, because you can either stand in their way or you can play a shot that is more difficult for them to return. But I think the same principle applies in that if you just focus on yourself rather than focusing on what other people are doing, then you're more likely to find success, because, if you focus on yourself, then you'll put yourself in a better position for success. Whereas if you worry about other people, then you're wasting energy that could be put on yourself.
That's really good. Thanks, Yona. Really insightful. I know Martin's going to ask a few questions now. Probably a little bit more. Well, they will be more challenging than mine, obviously. But good luck with that.
Hi, Yona. You've already touched on it briefly in one of your answers to Mr. Morris. But part of the A-level course, we look into principles of training, particularly looking at flexibility training. So my first question is, how often do you work on your flexibility? And are there any specific training that you actually do to improve your flexibility?
Well, in terms of how often I work on it, before lockdown, my answer would definitely be not often enough. The thing is, there's so many other elements about diving to worry about that stretching sometimes takes a bit of a backseat, but I've been trying really hard to work on flexibility after every single training session, which has a great effect, because that's when your muscles are the most warm, and that's when you can make the most gains straight after you've finished. So I've been trying to work on that. Since lockdown, I've been working on it so much more than ever before. And I feel like I've made a lot of progress. And, I think the most important thing with flexibility is trying to vary the way you stretch as much as possible. So if you just do the same stretch over and over and over again, yes, you might see improvements in that particular stretch, but you're forgetting other areas. For example, one thing that I learned during this time is that your glute muscles, it's like a fan. And if you just stretch it in one way, you might just stretch one part of the glute and you're not stretching the other. So one side of it might get really tight, and that could, result in an injury of somewhere completely random because of just that tight area. So you got to try and stretch the whole muscle by moving around, challenging yourself. So I try and keep the variation up as much as possible. There's various types of stretching that you can do. You've got static, this will test my PE knowledge, but you've got static, dynamic, and then I can't remember what the exact term is. Maybe you can help me out. But when you resist and then relax and then resist and relax.
PNF.
PNF, that's the one. Can't remember what that stands for. Can't remember what it stands for, but that type of stretching as well. So trying to work through all those different types of stretching and flexibility will help improve flexibility in every single aspect. And that's not important just to be more flexible, but it helps reduce the risk of injury, which is obviously very important. The more you stretch, the less chance you have of having a stupid injury, which, if you can avoid that, then that'll be great.
Are there any specific body parts that you maybe work on in diving?
Yeah, I mean, diving's like a whole body sport, and it depends on what event you do. So, for example, if you're a platform diver, you really have to work on like your tricep flexibility, shoulder mobility. You don't want to have stiff shoulders, and also quads, because there's a lot of impact going through the knees. So you need to have your quads as loose as possible. That's one area that I struggle in a lot. Then of course, like, there's the shapes that we make in the air. So your hamstrings and glutes have to be really loose to try and get into those shapes. Another thing I struggle with is cramp in my calf. So I have to stretch my calf a lot. I have to stretch my feet and my toes to try and make them look pretty in the air, and point them. Wrist mobility and flexibility, that's very important. Neck mobility, but also strength is very important to be able to like hold your tight line through the water. So there's bits of everything, but on the flip side, you don't want to be too flexible in certain areas. You also have to work on the strength within that range, because you need to be able to hold those stretches at like the most extreme range, if you know what I mean. So just working on the strength within the flexibility is also very important.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant detail for our A-level students. Thank you very much. Also part of the course is nutrition and hydration. So my next sort of question to you is how do you monitor what you eat and what you drink? And have you got any advice on nutrition for the whole school body?
Again, probably not as well as I probably should do. I have spent more and more time over the last few years thinking about it as I've got slightly older. I wish I'd started thinking about nutrition a little bit earlier, but I've been very fortunate to have a fast metabolism and keep weight off pretty easily. But I just try and eat as healthily as possible. Try and eat fruit as much as I can. Eat vegetables with every single meal. Spinach is one of my favorites. Like, it's the easiest thing to put with a meal, and it has so many good qualities. So I just throw spinach into pretty much everything. And so that's something that I focus on. But also fueling at the right times is also very important. So I need to make sure that I'm eating enough before training. I need to make sure that I have something with me when I'm at the pool. So between the gym and the pool, I usually have like a little snack, just like a cereal bar or something like that. So I've got enough energy to finish off the pool session as strongly as possible. Something that I struggled with for a little while was just kind of crashing towards the end of a pool session and not staying productive at the end because I was just so tired. And just refueling during that session helped a lot. And then obviously hydration is so important. That's another area where I slipped up on a lot when I was younger. I just wouldn't drink water as much as I should. You know, I used to find water very boring, so I would always have to have cordial or juice or something like that during a training session just to make it a little bit more enjoyable. But you know, now I understand the benefits. I'll just fill up my water bottle with water and just drink it as much as I possibly can. And it's hard because you don't really see the effects that it has, and you can't necessarily feel the effects. You just have to trust in it. And you know, obviously, what water does, it helps. It helps just the fluidity of your muscles and of your bloodstream, and you know, it helps everything just work a little bit more efficiently. So it's so important to have when you're training, away from training as much as possible. So yeah, with nutrition and hydration, the content is very important, but also the timing is equally important.
Thank you. Again, a great answer. So if I move away from the sort of physical side of it now, move towards the psychological side of diving. The question is, how do you cope with the pressure of the high tariff dives, and how do you work out in which order you're going to do those dives in a competition?
That's a good question. Coping with the pressure is tough. It just comes with experience. You know, I spend a lot of time training those dives over and over and over and over again in training, but once you get in that boarding competition, it's a completely different ball game, and you really have to find a way to make sure that you think about the process of the dive. The transition that I've tried to make is worrying about the process rather than the outcome. I spent too much time worrying about whether the dive, you know, how many points I was going to get on the dive or what the judges were going to score it, even before I did it. I had to take a step back and think about the process of the dive. So what elements I needed to get right in order to execute the dive well, and trying to do each and every single one of those elements as well as possible. And then if I do that, then there's a good chance that the dive will go well. So that's something I really try and focus on when I'm studying the boarding competition. And it's tough because, you know, there's so many factors that will have an effect on your psychology, but you know, it comes with experience and trial and error. Don't be afraid to fail and try new things, and you know, that's where the learning comes the most. I think I've had a lot of bad competitions in my time, and the bad competitions is where I've really been able to take a step back and think, okay, this is what I need to do different. This is what I need to change for next time. And if I do that, maybe it'll be better. And there's definitely been that progression over the years. So yeah, just experience mainly helps me cope with the pressure. And that obviously only comes over time. But you know, with the high tariff dives, you know, it's a tough game because anything can happen. You got to kind of accept that it could go wrong, and if it goes wrong, so be it. Forget that, bounce back for the next dive. And with that being said, that's kind of how I think about my list order and the order in which I put my dives, because I don't want to do one of my hard dives, potentially make a mistake, and then have another hard dive that's going to worry me straight afterwards. So I try and think about what dives I'm most comfortable with, and then try and pair that with a dive that I'm a little bit more nervous about. And then that's how my order kind of comes together. It's something that I think about mostly myself, but I'll also discuss it with my coach. But the order I've got now that I will use in competition, it's the order that I've been using for the last year or so, and hopefully I'll maintain that for a period of time. And you know, I'll find more and more comfort in that, and hopefully that'll take the pressure off.
So what's your favourite dive at the moment, Yona?
My favourite dive is my first dive, because I can do that dive with my eyes closed almost. It's a forward 3.5 pike. It's the dive that I actually used to finish on it. So it's the dive that I finished on at the World Cup in 2016 that qualified me for the Olympics. It's the dive that got me my silver medal at the World Cup. I think I'd hit it. I'd get it right 9 times out of 10, maybe 99 times out of 100. I'd get it right, even when I'm feeling terrible. So that's my favorite dive, just because I can trust it 100%.
And what's your highest tariff dive that you've got on your program at the moment? And is there any plans to develop new ones?
Yeah, my highest tariff is, well, I've got two of the same. It's a reverse 3.5 tuck. So you approach forward, but you're spinning backwards towards the board in tuck shape. So that's tough because you got to get the distance between you and the board, whilst also creating enough rotation to make the dive. And then also a reverse 1.5 somersaults with 3.5 twists. So you got to get the speed of the somersault right. You got to get the twist right. Obviously, it's quite scary trying to check out of the twist in the right spot, and also control that through the line. So they are both at 3.5 in terms of difficulty. But I am planning to work on the forward 4.5, which is a make or break dive for many divers. I'm sure if you've watched diving, you will have heard of the forward 4.5. That comes at 3.8, and it's, I mean, especially for me being a tall diver, it's so hard because there's so many somersaults. It takes a long time to get around, and that's when the flexibility will really come into it, because I've got to work so tight in that tuck shape to be able to keep the speed. And then potentially pushing the boat out even further. There's a dive called the triple out, which is a forward 2.5 somersaults with 3 twists. So it's kind of complicated. I currently do a double out where you, when you take off, you get into your pike shape, do about a somersault before you come out, wrap into your twists. So I currently do 2 twists and then finish the dive off. But the goal would be to add an extra twist into that, which takes the difficulty up from a 3.4 to a 3.9. So that one would be really tough, especially for me with my long legs, but anything is possible.
You just blown my mind with the 4.5 somersault. I've just been watching Mr. Morris sort of like nod his head at all the dives that you've been talking. So obviously he can do all of these dives. So thank you very much for answering those questions. Our A-level students will gain a great deal from that. So I'll just hand back now to Mr. Morris, who's just going to give you a final grilling with your 10 quick answer fire questions.
Do you know what, Yona? You saying that you can do that dive with your eyes closed. I think I'd have to have my eyes closed. I'd be absolutely terrified. Massive. But we are proud of you, Yona. You are one of our very few Olympians, along with Gordon and Hannah, and we're very proud of you for that. And the fact that you gained that silver medal in the World Championship, that was amazing. But this is the test, Yona. This is the last test, the 10 questions. If you're ready for that now, and the rule is you're only allowed one answer. Okay, unlike Gordon, you can't ramble on about things. Okay, he jibbed out of a few. So here we go. Then the first one is sporting hero.
Usain Bolt.
Good man. Biggest influence.
My coach, Edwin Youngyans.
Good. Toughest opponent.
Philip Gagne from Canada.
Good. Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Pizza or burger?
Pizza.
Favorite pop group?
Busted.
Okay. Favorite subject at school?
PE, obviously. It's got to be PE.
Good man, good man. There's got to be only one answer to this, but I'm sure you're not going to agree with me. Favorite football team?
Manchester United.
Oh no! You're trying to wind me up. Favorite teacher at school?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Can't put me on the spot like that. Geography Knowles, Mr. Knowles.
Good man, he's a good man. And if not diving, what job?
One answer. I wanted to be a pilot when I was a kid.
Good answer. I like that. Right. Okay. So before we say goodbye, Yona, I just want to know what are the short and the long-term plans for you for now?
Short-term plan is get ready for Tokyo 2021. I want to improve on what I did in Rio. So in Rio, I made the semi-final, finished 14th, and just missed out on the final by 8 points. So I'd love to be able to make an Olympic final, and just see how I get on in that. But I've got to make it there first, and I've still got a lot of work to do to make it there. So That's the short-term plan. Long-term plan is to, go on for another cycle, but use my diving career and use my platform as an athlete to set me up for life after sport, because I know that that's going to come very quickly, and it's a very scary thing for a lot of athletes. Life post-sport is something that we've just grown up with and we always know. And I don't want to be one of those who is caught short without preparing for what comes afterwards. So I'm working on many things to just pretty much figure out what I want to do and what I enjoy doing. One of those things, as I mentioned earlier, is my podcast. It's called The Athlete's Voice, and I'm just talking to people. I enjoy talking. I enjoy talking and hearing people's stories. And it's, I'm grateful that you guys at GSAL remember me and still appreciate me, even though it's been, 9 years since I left school. And I'd love to be able to come back in person one day soon, whenever we're allowed, because I appreciate that a lot, and I appreciate the fact that you're still interested in my story. But I enjoy hearing about other people's stories, and every story is unique, every story is valuable, and I think that could be the area in some aspect that I continue my career and life in. Just got to figure out exactly what aspect that is. So over the next figuring that out.
Yeah, you tell you what, Yona, you are more than welcome to come back at any time. We'd be delighted for you to come back and speak to the kids about your journey. It'll be absolutely amazing. So don't wait for the invite. It's an open invite to come back whenever you want. Okay, so please do come back. And I'd just like to say it's an absolute pleasure to speak to you today. And never mind remembering you. We're still texting around every time you're on television and saying, "Guess who's on television?" So we're following you all the way. So don't ever think anything else. But listen, good luck for the future. We're going to be following you as well everywhere you go, and we've got fingers crossed for the next Olympics. And you will make it, mate. You will make it. You've got a positive and a great attitude on life, and you will make it. So listen, thanks for joining us today, and good luck with everything for the future.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Yona.